Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Bloomberg. My name is Tom Miller, and I'm the Diplomatic and Global Business Lead with Bloomberg BNA. And I'd like to thank you for joining us this afternoon for this discussion about Europe after Brexit, a shift in the balance of business. And I emphasize the question mark here because, as I think we all know, virtually nothing has been settled yet. But we have with us today some notable experts from both the UK and the EU who will be sharing their insights about the key issues that will shape the debate in the months and even the years ahead. Now, at the outset, I would like to thank the Association of Business Service Leaders, or ABSL, for underwriting this event and acknowledge their supporters, Baker McKenzie, CzechInvest, Hayes, JLL, Kraków, and Skanska, for helping to make this event possible. Before we get underway, I feel compelled, as an American who lives in New York City and works at Bloomberg headquarters there, to say a few words about the results of the U.S. presidential election. Now, I must confess that I was very surprised by the results of the outcome, and I did not foresee a Trump victory. And I take little solace from the fact that so many others got it wrong. The advance is not working here. Thank you. On BBC One this morning, a commentator said that the American vote was Brexit times 100. And indeed, having read now many reports in the New York Times, the Washington Post, and other places, the word Brexit is coming up all the time in reference to the outcome of our election. So now the big question, I think, is, will we see a Trexit? A Trump-led retreat of America from the world as we know it. Building walls, tearing up trade deals, questioning NATO and our allies, cozying up to Russia. The future is pretty cloudy right now. It's very unclear. And I must say, in my opinion, two forces were at work in the American election that are very similar to what happened here in Britain in the Brexit vote. One, I think, is a nationalist backlash against globalization, concerning the global movement of goods, people, and potentially money. The other is a populist backlash against the political establishments of Washington and London, who seem disconnected and disinterested in the struggles of people in the U.S. Midwest and in the British Midlands. So now the U.S. has taken off on a largely uncharted course, as is the case here in Britain and Europe as well. And the questions are enormously important, the implications for business and the financial communities huge. So let's shift gears to set the stage for our discussions today about Europe after Brexit. Now, in January of 2013, former Prime Minister David Cameron was in this building and stood right here on this stage to deliver a speech that later became known in the UK government as the Bloomberg speech. And it was the speech that set Britain on the course to holding a popular referendum on membership in the European Union earlier this year. Well, we all know, of course, how the vote on that referendum turned out. But what we may have forgotten is that Cameron's speech was actually focused on the future of the European Union. And many of the issues he discussed then, I think, are still very relevant today. So I'd like to begin our conference this afternoon by quoting a few passages from Cameron's Bloomberg speech of nearly 4 years ago. Now, he began his talk by reminding his audience of Europe's tragic wars of the 20th century and of the post-war successes of the Common Market, the Élysée Treaty, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and many others. But, he continued, quote, "Today, the main overriding purpose of the European Union is different. Not to win peace, but to secure prosperity. Of course, a growing world economy benefits us all, but we should be in no doubt that a new global race of nations is underway today, a race for the wealth and jobs of the future," unquote. Well, Cameron then identified what he considered to be three major challenges for the EU. First, the problems in the Eurozone, stemming from sovereign debt and the euro itself. Second, what he called a crisis of European competitiveness. And third, a growing gap between the EU on the one hand and its citizens on the other that was manifesting itself in nationalist politics across the continent. And according to Cameron, quote, "Today, public disillusionment within the EU is at an all-time high. People feel that the EU is heading in a direction that they never signed up to. They resent the interference in national life by what they see as unnecessary rules and regulations. And put simply, many ask, why can't we just have what we voted for, a common market," unquote. And finally, Cameron concluded, quote, "That's why I'm in favor of a referendum. I believe in confronting this issue, shaping it, leading the debate. It's time for the British people to have their say. It's time to settle this European question in British politics," unquote. Well, the British people have spoken, and David Cameron is no longer Prime Minister. But the European question in British politics and the British question in the EU are by no means settled. Last week's High Court ruling that the government cannot trigger Article 50 on its own, must consult Parliament, has only heightened the uncertainties about what Brexit will mean. And there are significant disagreements, of course, among leading members of the Conservative Party here and among leading member states of the European Union about what Brexit should look like. These questions have potentially tremendous implications for the business and financial communities here in the UK, throughout Europe, and in the United States and other major economies as well. And the answers to them at this point are by no means clear. So that's why we at Bloomberg want to engage with you in dialogues such as this one today, to keep you abreast of the latest developments, share the best thinking, and listen to the concerns of business and finance about what lies ahead. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Jacek Levern, the president of the Association of Business Service Leaders and the CEO of Finteco Holdings. This is the second year that Jacek and ABSL have partnered with Bloomberg to hold conferences on investment trends and opportunities in Europe, with a focus on Central Europe, and we appreciate their support. So, Jacek, the stage is yours.
Wow. Different world today, no? We woke up, actually, in a different world this morning. What are we actually witnessing? Political revolution. So obviously we planned this discussion to talk about Brexit, but let's have a little bit of a broader look. Trump, government changes in Eastern Europe that have been happening. In the end, what we're seeing is a move towards the nation rather than towards Europe or towards global. We are seeing rather a move towards the masses rather than the selected few. We are seeing calls for redistribution of wealth. Actually, in general, the political revolution is a call for radical change from the masses. And what we're experiencing is, in a sense, the beginning of remodeling on all levels. So let's move a little bit from this political revolution that we have started, I think, to experience, to economic evolution, which of course is related. Over the last 25 years, we've been all benefiting from globalization, which have mainly been driven by openness and, of course, technology. I'm sure all of you will be familiar with phrases and phenomena like digitalization, offshoring, outsourcing, transformation, automation, innovation, even reindustrialization, and maybe most recently, as this morning, protectionism. So, economic evolution, what are we seeing? Constant change, redefined business models, new players, new entrants. It's really a new economic order that has been evolving with this globalization. And in the end, if we try to sum all of that up, or at least the way that I'm seeing it, we're seeing a lot of remodeling. So, we've talked politics, we've talked economics. What about the business? What's the business solution to this political revolution and economic evolution? I think today, here in London and in the UK, with many participants from Central Eastern Europe, we are all in the apex of this revolution, evolution, and remodeling. London is the financial center of Europe. In some ways, you could argue that it's a little bit of a maybe business center, actually, of Europe. Central Eastern Europe has, over the last 25 years, been becoming the operational center of Europe. And one of the things we'd like to discuss today, and actually propose today, is how can we take the best advantage of that, as with Brexit, with Trump, with all of these things that are happening, there's huge risk, and we can obviously look at this risk and say, this is scary, or we can say, let's take it as an opportunity and let's do something. So one of the things, I'll leave you with that, is why don't we have a look, and why don't we discuss today how UK and London can cooperate and work together hand in hand with Eastern Europe in such a way that, as some of the scaremongers of I think, Brexit that you've read in the press saying, okay, Frankfurt is next, Amsterdam is next, Paris is next, versus London, what I'm proposing is, can London, with the support and with the hand-in-hand cooperation of Eastern Europe, continue to lead and be the financial and business capital of Europe? Thank you.